Kidnapping Americans and sending them to foreign countries, aka deporting them.
Trump.
Driving us into a recession.
Trump.
Increasing the cost of everything.
Trump.
Waging an idiotic tariff war.
Flippy.
Discriminating against trans people is somehow the only way to protect women. This hearing has nothing to do with improving government efficiency. It's another attempt by Republicans to distract from their demonic and disastrous policies that are making it more difficult for Americans to make ends meet. And the members of this subcommittee engaged in insider trading and market manipulation. Maybe it's a coincidence that the chairwoman brought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock
that
the
face.
day
I'm
before.
sorry. Hey everybody, this is Dean FM, Dean Fraser Milford, here for your creature comfort. And today I wanted to do another reaction video. This one is going to be to Trump or Trans. Representative Jasmine Crockett shows who's really hurting women and kids. I love her. Anyways, please make sure to check out all my stuff. It's in the link down below. And let's go right into it.
So much. It is so interesting that I just learned today at 44 years old that the Republicans are going to be the ones to save women. The same Republicans that have been saved for women's reproductive acts, or the same Republicans that have stood for the Equal Rights Act, which would hopefully get women to equal pay, or the same Republicans that just this Congress voted for the SAVE Act, which we know would disenfranchise women from even being able to vote. But let me tell you, they are our saviors, and so I am so happy to be here today, because otherwise I would not have an idea that I had a savior in the Republicans. So let's also talk about the fact that it's only been 100 days, 100 long, terrible days for anybody that absolutely believes in reality. Because what we know is that they have terminated staff responsible for enforcing federal protections against sex-based discrimination. Sounds like that's pro-women. Or they've cut funding for domestic violence survivor services. Sounds pro-woman to me.
And the
or
abortion
they prohibited funding for research affecting women's health. That definitely sounds pro-women to me. Essentially, they closed the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. Again, sounds like they are fighting for us. And instead of providing oversight over these actions, congressional Republicans have been working to execute one of the most aggressive anti-women legislative agendas in history. And yet, they're here today trying to convince the American people that discriminating against trans people is somehow the only way to protect women. This hearing has nothing to do with improving government efficiency. It's another attempt by Republicans to distract from their demonic and disastrous policies that are making it more difficult for Americans to make ends meet. So, Miss Graves, I want to play a game. It's called Trump or Trans. You ready? Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me whether or not it is Trump or trans people that are responsible. You understand?
Got it.
Okay, very good. The first one, gutted medical research.
Trump.
Kidnapping Americans and sending them to foreign countries, aka deporting them.
Trump.
Driving us into a recession.
Trump.
Increasing the cost of everything.
Trump.
Waging an idiotic tariff war.
Flippy.
Harming farmers.
Trump.
Ignoring the Constitution.
Trump.
Proposing to take away Social Security.
Trump.
Cutting health care. Firing government workers who keep our country safe.
Trump.
Encouraging an environment of hate and divisiveness.
Trump.
The lump.
Thank you so much.
President Rump.
This committee could be engaged in actual oversight of fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement. So let's talk about waste. Like Trump's plan to spend almost $100 million for his little birthday parade. Or how he spent 25% of his first 100 days golfing, costing taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. In fact, it's a little bit over $30 million at our last estimation. In fact, President Trump is on pace to spend more than $1 billion of taxpayer dollars just on golfing. Yet the Republicans have been silent. So they must think spending taxpayer dollars on the president's golfing trips is more important than providing health care to their constituents. And when I talk about constituents, we're going to talk about the ones on this committee. So if we look at Texas 26, 39,000 children look to potentially lose their Medicaid with the cuts that they are about to vote on for reconciliation. 88,000 in Georgia 3, 68,000 in Missouri 7, 79,000 in Tennessee 2, 86,000 in South Carolina 4, 50,000 in Texas 04, 85,000 in Texas 27, and in Georgia 14, 111,000.
Well, y'all.
If you add that up just on this committee, we have 606,000 kids that are relying on us to do right by them. And instead, we playing these crazy games because we worried about 10 trans folk that are in sports right now in college.
Yeah.
I wasn't elected to be engaged in these fights. I was elected to make sure that those kids, the kids that they are about to neglect with these terrible votes that they're about to
That's
take,
the team.
I was elected to protect them and to
Quit
make
the
sure
ball,
that they
like,
could
really,
grow up and have all the opportunities. But let's keep on track. Now,
I love her passion.
when we
I really
look
do.
at how much they are spending on, let's look at fraud. We could investigate whether the White House and the members of this subcommittee engaged in insider trading and market manipulation. Maybe it's a coincidence that the chairwoman brought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock the day before Trump announced a 90-day pause on tariffs. But I guess we'll never know. So finally, let's talk about abuse. Like how the Republicans have let Elon steal data of Americans and his competitors to make himself even richer. Look, don't let these hearings distract you from their destruction.
Please.
This is a rage baiting instead. This is rage baiting instead of conducting oversight over the issues that Americans actually care about. And with that, I will yield.
Unfortunately, I do think a lot of Americans do care about the trans issue in a bad way. And I think that there's a group of people who are within the community and who know people within the community who are sane and rational and nice people and don't operate off of like just ready to hate at a moment's notice type of deal. There's people who are on both sides of the aisle there and people that don't like us, the people who don't like the trans community, the people who use it as an excuse to deflect from the Medicaid issues, to deflect from the actual policies in place that actively hurt women. Something to be said about that. Their true colors show each and every day. And at that, my dear, was reacting to Trump a Trans. Representative Jasmine Crockett shows who's really hurting women and kids. It really is sad, especially a lot of the arguments they use is just about like trans people are predators, trans people are this, trans people are that. But how many people up in the White House? The Epstein files, that's the whole thing. Trump in and of himself, and we gotta say it again and again and again, he is a sexual abuser. A felon on top of it, just aside from the sexual abuse. Let's talk about priorities. These trans people aren't going to go anywhere no matter what they want to say about it. Trans people are here. No matter where the politics shift, we're going to be here. We're going to be fighting for each other. And our community is very strong and our allies are incredibly fantastic, fabulous. It's going to have the allies that we do. It's very important. And anybody who is in this game with us, anybody who is fighting this fight with us is to be honored for that. In my opinion, I hope you have a nice day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.